Welcome to the Lane Shift, where things get freaky and geeky. Today's episode is brought to you by the Slash and Cast Podcast Network. And tonight, Matt Shotcha has arisen from the grave once more to join me on the mic. So to those who didn't tune in on the last one he was on, Matt, if you don't mind, tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, my name's Matt. I'm the host of Radio for the Creeps. I've been seen slumming around the alleys of Creep City, talking to you guys about horror movies and cool shit like that. I'm also the lead community developer for a company called Gun Interactive. We made a couple of games, Breach and Clear, Friday the 13th, the game, and published Layers of Fear 2. I'm pretty psyched to be back. Last time we had a great chat, so I'm looking forward to tonight's episode.
Oh, yeah. So starting off, so let me ask you this. What do you like? Do you like supernatural or do you like the classic slashers?
I don't know. I mean, it's tough. I've been talking about horror a lot lately. Even more so during this quarantine. And I keep saying one thing that I really can't emphasize enough, and that's I can find merit in just about any type of horror movie. And I think that if I were to sit here and try to give you a list of like 5 of my favorite movies, they'd be all across the board, from slashers to splatter films to like the gross gore, torture films to, more cosmic horror and body horror and aquatic horror and all kinds of different horror, right? So it would be pretty difficult for me to try to put a pin into whatever my favorite is. But I lean toward, the 80s horror. Something about 80s horror just feels like home. And I think it's because I got into horror at a very young age. So in the 80s, when these movies were just cranking out every other year, a single franchise would have a film every year or every other year. And between all the different franchises happening at the same time, there was just horror every friggin' where. And, I just have fond memories of going to the Allwood Theater in Clifton. And the Allwood Theater was a little shitty movie theater in my town. And seeing horror movies, or going to the local video store and walking down the horror aisle and being scared by the box art and, renting based off of that really sick box art. So, yeah, the 80s horror is definitely kind of my thing, my jam.
Word. See, that's crazy because like I kind of grew up into where more of like the supernatural horror era, but what's weird is like I also was watching that stuff at a really young age, but I honestly have to go slashers was because like I mean realistically you're not gonna come home and all of a sudden a piano is gonna fall on your fucking head and kill you, but you never know. You can come home and see a man just ready in your house to fuck you up. It's like, oh shit, like.
So you feel like the slasher is maybe a little more real, and that's what gets you more scared.
Exactly. You're not gonna go pick up a book and next thing you know the dead's at your cabin killing your fiance.
I mean, some people think that those things really happen, but yeah, sure. I don't know. It's tricky to me. I don't know that. Here's the thing where I would challenge that, and I would challenge it, again, not trying to be, Mr. Contradictory for funsies, but no, I would challenge it on the fact that I think the fear of the unknown to me is much scarier. I feel like, okay, if your first encounter with Jason Voorhees, you don't know that he's supernatural. You don't know that he's big, but you don't know that he's like superhuman strong and you know what I mean? All these things. You don't know all of that, but for all intents and purposes, what you know is there's a guy in front of you with a hockey mask and a machete, Michael Myers, same kind of thing. You don't, so I don't know that does it the same. There's something, like if we're talking about pure fear and what scares me the most, definitely like cosmic shit. Movies like Color Out of Space scare me the most because that's just, family living in their house and a fucking meteor falls out of the sky and next thing you know, they're like their whole world's changing and down is up, up is down. That's the shit that scares me because there's nothing you can point at and say, if I can defeat that, I'm good. With Jason, and again, we all know Jason and what Jason is, but assuming you're in the situation and maybe you don't, you're looking at a big guy in front of you. You're not looking at, the entire environment changing around you. So I have to say, I think the fear of the unknown, the cosmic shit, is what really fucks me up, because that's something that's going to kill you, and you don't even know what to do to stop it or how to, even move an inch on it. You know what I mean? You can throw a punch at Jason and it ain't going to go very far, but at least you're trying. Like, what do you do when it's the color out of space, or when it's, something in the water possessing people, or that shit messes me up, man. The beach house was the most recent one that really messed me up, because the beach house is like, just the water is
like gray matter.
Know, kinda, yeah. Like, well, the water is like putting out this bioluminescent type of thing into the atmosphere, and people are breathing it in, and it's changing them, and changing their actual like core makeup, and it messed me up, man, because again, you're just like at a beach house and you're like, let's have a few beers and barbecue some hot dogs, and then next thing you know, you're breathing in something that's going to kill you. Like, you can't throw a punch at that. And I guess that's
that's true.
There's no shotgun that's going to take out the cosmic. So there's if we're talking about what scares me more, I think it's probably that.
Damn. See, that's crazy, because to me, like I said, it would have to be slashers. I mean, like, you ever seen, like, the Collector, like, that fucking movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. See, like that, like, to be tortured or, like, hostile, to, like, have your fucking Achilles tendon just sliced open and to try to crawl away. Like, dying slowly is a fear.
Yeah.
Like, like, at least with Jason, it's kind of, like, instant, because he's fucking strong, so he can just snap your neck, knock your head off, chop you in half, whatever. Like, it's...
And while that is scary, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here like, I would just take him out. I'm not like an idiot tough guy or nothing. I'm just saying that while that is scary, when you die, you'd be like, I died because I got cut up by a machete, or I got broken in half. When you die from something cosmic, you'd be like, I don't really know what happened. I was breathing, I was fine, I was hanging out, having some beers. Next thing you know, everything went trippy, and I was a fucking weirdo monster. You know what I mean? Like, that is the thing,
Damn.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It sounds rudimentary and simple, but to be able to say, like, hey, man, I don't know, maybe if there is another side, I'd be down in hell going like, well, I took a machete to the head, so I'm dead. You know what I mean? But to be there saying, I don't really know what happened. Something came out of the water and possessed me, and then I tried to eat everyone around me, and my wife shotgunned me, and so now I'm here. Like, that's a very different kind of situation. And I think that what I said in that episode, actually, on Radio for the Creeps, I still think holds true, and I feel really strongly that I think that these fears of the unknown are hitting different right now, with everybody in quarantine and the world changing the way things are right now, because we're locked down, we're not going anywhere without masks, everybody's worried about germs, and wash your hands 400 times a day and don't touch your face. And I just think that cosmic shit hits differently right now, because we're all a little raw and a little sensitive to the idea of like something just getting in your system and killing you from the inside out.
Yeah, I mean, damn, you're right. I mean, that makes sense. And I think you're with this, like you said, the way this year's been going, I mean, you honestly look at it, that'd probably be more scary right now. I mean,
the world's a horrifying place right now, and it's not about the big bad banging on the door trying to get in. It's about germs and breathing and these, I don't know, and human interaction. Coronavirus and this whole situation, the core tenets of like social distancing and not seeing people, I mean, like, normally I would have been back to North Carolina to visit with family probably 2 times since coronavirus hit. And, I haven't been back to see family. So like the way it's, I mean, in all of these cosmic horrors, right? And I don't mean to make the episode about cosmic horror, but
don't worry.
Cosmic horrors, one of the things, there's a lot of times that you see these moments of isolation, and that being seen as weakness. So the entity that's kind of malicious in the film is preying on people that are isolated or separated from the group, right? So like it's a remote house in color out of space. It's the group of people the group of scientists and soldiers and such that go into the Shimmer in Annihilation. They go in as a fire team, like just a few of them. it's not necessarily always by design, but these films always have a way to get you alone and get you isolated. And right now we're all alone and isolated. That's part of it. We're separated from family and loved ones, and we're sheltering inside, and we're not getting too close to anybody else, you know? So like, there's just a lot of strange thematic things that kind of line up with it, and it makes it hit differently right now because like I said, we are all isolated for one reason or another. I mean, if you're following the rules, you're not getting closer than 6 feet to anybody other than the people you live with. So, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's crazy. You know, and honestly, don't even worry about talking about Cosmic, because if we're being honest, I mean, you could honestly throw Cosmic right now kind of into like the oldish horror genre, because no, I mean, let's be real. When's the last time a Cosmic movie's kind of dropped? It's been a while.
Well, you know, there's actually been a little bit of a resurgence, a little bit, and the reason I mention it is because a lot of that cosmic shit kind of goes hand in hand with aquatic stuff and some of the big monster movies, and so like the lines get all blurry on those subgenre classifications. But like Color Out of Space was recent, Annihilation was recent.
Really?
I would consider those both two of the strongest cosmic films I've seen. Beach House is aquatic slash cosmic slash Lovecraftian, and that just came out, and I really enjoyed it. You know, one thing I can say though, I think it's interesting that we're not like I think it's interesting that they couldn't have been planned to be recent. You know, Beach House, for instance, couldn't have been planned to be recent. You know, nobody was like, well, we're gonna drop it now. You know, everybody had a plan of how things were gonna go with film and such, and then COVID fucked everything up, and basically now kind of like adjusting on the fly. So it's not like they did that on purpose, but I do really see that, like if you do a double feature or like a movie marathon of some of these cosmic horrors, man, you walk away from it and then you jump right into the COVID news and read about, you know, whatever the latest news is on that. You're going to find that definitely it hits different.
All right.
It's messed me up a few times. Like I got in my own head a few times, like, you know, when you're thinking about something heavy and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I need to, like, I don't know, I need to read a cartoon or something. Like, I need a palette, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I honestly feel where you're at. You know, what's crazy, though, is, like, before like, the whole social distance, right, and when coronavirus was just coming out of nowhere, like, this one article scared the fuck out of me. It was an article saying some patients who had coronavirus and then had, like, zombie-like symptoms. Like, what the fuck? No way.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I think that, again, going back to the, like, which creates more fear, like the zombie thing, you know, is just too over the top. There's something about the subtlety with the cosmic horrors that makes it mesh well with the current times. And when I say mesh well, I mean actually mesh in a way to make you most scared or whatever. So not really well, but you know what I mean. There's something over the top with the other stuff. There's something like just subtle enough with cosmic that makes it kind of, you know, really kind of mess with you a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, man. The horror is way too fractured to just be like, that's my favorite, boom, done. You know, I think that it's way too splintered into subgroups to be able to pin down for me.
Right.
But I definitely appreciate those 80s films. Being a little kid and seeing those movie boxes at the Blockbuster, definitely, that was like some of my horror fan formative years, you know?
Well, you know, makes me, you know, I honestly have to agree with you on that, is what makes me appreciate the 80s films is like, you know, I'm a young person, but I never really got with my times, you know, like most of the people my generation, you know, they're like all into the hipster fields and all. I'm like, dude, I don't even know what the half the fuck y'all are talking about. But when I started hanging out with like 30-year-olds to 40-year-olds, it's like I could like get in touch with them because I grew up on like half the movies they did, half the stuff they did. I'm like, damn, I'm in the wrong time. Like I need a time machine. I need to go back to the 80s. And you know, like
born late.
Right? Like, because, I mean, the first horror movie I ever saw was actually Friday the 13th Part 7 on HBO. Like, I just remember being so young, walking into the living room and seeing Jason. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to sit down and watch it. I was like, holy fuck. And as soon as I got older, you know, I started watching more 80 films. I was like, wait, this is from the 80s? This is, you know, and I just got into it. I was like, this is great. Like, you know, even though for the 80s, some of those movies still hold up for their time, I'm like, damn, that's really from the 80s?
Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, I think that the boom of the 80s is something that, in terms of horror, it's something that we haven't seen since.
Yeah,
We've
agreed.
seen, like, ripples of it, but, and I don't know, it could just be that it's too recent, right? Like, you know, people don't appreciate the classic as a classic until it's X amount of years old, and I understand all that, and, you know, maybe that's just the case, but it seems like even at, like, you know, 90s, early 2000s, and now, um, you have these high points of horror where there's like upticks in horror movies, but they don't hit the like critical mass prevalence of the 80s in America, because in the 80s in America, like I said, there was, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the
Mm-hmm.
13th, all these films that were coming out once a year, once every 2 years, and they're all staggered around. So it was just horror, 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 and you recognized all the. You had like very dynamic main villains in them: Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Leatherface. Um, so you had all these dynamic key villains that people could kind of hone in on and become
Right.
fans of, and you had these regular annualized releases of films. We haven't seen that. I mean, yeah, we've seen some films get sequels. I mean, what did they make, like 17 Wrong Turn movies at this point? And like, what was
And
the
some
other
of those
one I
are
was thinking
good.
of? I can't remember. There was one the other day I was thinking about that had that it's Tremors. I think it is. Isn't Tremors on like part 7?
Oh, yeah. I think they're on production of Part 7 right now.
Right. So like, I mean, you have them, but not like it was in the 80s. And I just think
Right.
that that moment was kind of like a horror had existed everywhere, in the U.S. as well, prior, and it exists after. But there's something about that moment in the '80s where it was just like a lightning bolt.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, I mean, like nowadays movies, you with horror, you don't really get like those iconic killers. You get more like this is what I'm gonna have to say. I'm gonna be really honest with you here, and you could challenge me or not. But I feel as if horror nowadays just swings for more supernatural. You know, like you had like
Yeah,
the 1200 paranormal activities, then you had just the off brands and all that of it, and it's like, what can we deem out of this? Like each one's different. Like how can we connect this to one spirit if it's multiple different spirits and they're not specific? You know, like
yeah.
how the hell are we supposed to get something out of this? Like Jason, you know,
See,
you recognize Jason by his hockey mask, Michael by his mask,
right,
Freddy by the glove, but you don't recognize that out of the supernatural shit. You don't.
right. But you know, you see, part of that is an interesting thing. I did an episode of Radio for the Creeps with Wes, and we talked about giallos and the American slashers. And giallo films in Italy, they lasted for decades, and they were popular, and they came out like 100 a year, right?
Right.
Not even lying. There was like a once, I don't know, one decade where there was, I don't know how many hundred giallo films. Anyway, um, in the U.S., we saw some films influenced by it, and then they quickly moved into focusing on the killers, right? In a giallo film, you don't really know the killer's identity until the end, kind of like Friday the 13th Part 1. Now, uh, in the U.S., we quickly shifted over to like this
Hmm.
villain worship kind of thing. And I mean, I don't know if that's the best term for it. It's just the one I kind of threw out there while me and Wes were talking about it. And it applies, in my opinion. I'm sure somebody else has done some kind of a thesis on this that I just am not aware of. But it shifted into this villain worship thing where we were like, no, we need to have an iconic killer that we can latch onto and sell merch and do the thing and all of that. And so, like, you know, I'm sure you've heard things said like, well, the hockey mask is one of the most identifiable pieces of like trademarked pop
Right.
culture next to like Mickey Mouse ears and shit.
Yeah.
Well, why does Walt Disney use the Mickey Mouse ears? So that he can sell merch and so that he has a immediately easy to look at, really quick, you know, it's like the rules of branding, something that's easy to replicate, duplicate, something that's
Exactly.
easy to modify and customize. That makes the best kind of brand. So, like, more simplified and straightforward and whatever. Well, the hockey mask is right there with, you know, the Mickey Mouse ears in the US. And why they do that? So that they can market and sell more. So, in the 80s, everything was about. I mean, they were selling these films before they had anybody really signed on to make them. They were selling films based off a movie poster. They didn't even have scripts and shit like that. So
Yeah.
it was very marketing heavy, and for whatever reason, the villains became the key marketing beat, right? And so
Right.
that's where the U.S. quickly shifted off of giallo type films and into this. We need the Freddy, we need the Mike. Oh, I just said Mike Myers. Yeah, baby. We need
Yeah,
the Michael Myers.
Shogadelic.
Oh boy, we
Don't
need
worry.
the Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Leatherface. We need those icons out there, and it moved right away, shifted toward that kind of villain worship thing. And then I think the downside of the '80s is everybody kind of burnt out on that, and everybody was kind of like, well, we've got the Michael Myers who's human with a knife. We've got the undead Jason Voorhees, and we've got like the wise, cracking, kind of creepy Freddy Krueger, and we're good. You know, like we don't need any more. And they stopped focusing on other things. But there are films. God, I am really like monopolizing this conversation. I'm sorry. There
No,
are
you're
films like
good.
Hills Have Eyes,
Keep going.
Texas Chainsaw, where you have these families or these groups that are the killers, and I think that those are getting explored more now. Films like Haunt are looking at groups of killers. Films like The Strangers, they're looking at group like families.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that there's room for icons in that. I think, for instance, The Strangers is a great
Yeah.
example.
Exactly. That
You know,
family.
Yeah, we're just not seeing them serialized and like crammed down our throats like we did with like Freddy's glove and Michael's Shatner mask and Jason's hockey mask. So because again, I think marketing these things is changing too.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like, I guess if you're absolutely right, but I believe like with the upcoming, I mean, with upcoming of horror at the time, you really did just have Michael. Like, I'm gonna be real with you, I'm not a big Michael Myers fan. Like, I'm not saying that I hate him. I liked Michael. I just couldn't get into the fact of the idea behind Michael. Like what was he like? It never made sense. Like, how did the
Yeah, I
motherfucker
don't
walk
think.
out of the fiery room and just act like it's nothing? Like, but you saw undead Jason on fire and he flipped out. You saw him get hurt and go, oh, like, if Jason can make noises and react, you can too. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but you know what I think it is. I don't think that the people who made the Halloween films know what Michael's deal is either. That canon is all over the fucking
It
place, man.
is.
Like that. You want to talk about like the Haddonfield universe? It's everywhere.
It,
They're brother and sister. They're not brother and sister. Jamie Lee
right.
Curtis had a daughter. No, she didn't have a daughter. She had a son, and it's Josh Hartnett. No, she didn't have a son. She had a daughter, and her name's Karen, not Jamie. And Karen grew up and had
And then
that canon. It has gone all over the
Rob
fucking place.
Zombies.
Oh God, yeah. I don't even look, man. I can't for the life of me figure out that canon. I think that there's probably somebody who did a thesis on trying to make the whole thing make sense, but I think I think they need to just stop trying to tie them all together.
Yeah.
Um, but what's interesting is I do like that the most recent Halloween 2018. One thing that I have to give them credit for is that they cherry picked the parts of the canon that they were going to roll with, and they said this is what fits with what we want to do, and so we're going to discredit some of the other things. And like they throw little nods in there about, oh, wasn't it her brother? And it's like, no, that's just something people made up to make them feel better about the situation. So like they're shirking off some of the canon that's super like convoluted and tricky, and I think that's pretty cool. And I hope that the current three make a little sense in their own like mini canon, mini universe, whatever
Yeah.
kind of offshoot. Because the rest of that, like you said, oh, I don't really get Michael, and I really don't think anybody that did the Halloween films got it either. I think they just kind of like were making it up as they go, and I think partly that's because Halloween 1 came out in '78, and there wasn't Friday the 13th yet. So Halloween 1 came out, and it was like, cool, that's great. We did a thing. It's successful. Wildly successful Friday the 13th. They start annualizing Halloween, or at least trying to do the same franchise treatment to Halloween, and it kind of got muddy because they didn't really have a plan, and they couldn't already do the thing that other, Nightmare on Elm Street, which came along a bit later, they kind of wrote in parts of that lore to make it possible to just keep bringing Freddy back. Like, when you look at Nightmare on Elm Street as a franchise versus Friday the 13th, it later grew into it, but early Friday the 13th and Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street was written to be something that they were like, yeah, basically we're going to make a killer where we can just, whenever we feel like it, be like, nah, fuck it, he's still alive. And he's still killing kids. You didn't actually kill him. He's still alive and killing kids. He's dead. No, it's like he's back. You know what I mean? Like, they could just do what they wanted because of the supernatural element right off the rip, getting you in your dreams, and Freddy was always dead,
Yeah.
With Friday the 13th, they had to, like, grow to that. And at first they didn't very well, because at part 4 he technically died. Part 5 they were, it's not actually Jason, and then part 6 they did the whole electrified Franken Jason, and that then became canon that he was undead, which is why from part 6 forward is undead Jasons, that they're all human before that. With Halloween, they didn't have any of that written in, and they couldn't very well just be like, yeah, we're going to do the Jason thing, because that wasn't quite a thing yet. So they had to just kind of whip together how they were going to, annualize it, or however often whatever cadence they put them out at. And I think the franchise never really fully caught up to itself in that. It never had its feet under itself in that respect, and that's why they're all over the place, because they didn't,
That makes sense. And that's the thing.
It's also why Halloween 1 and 2 are the two best. Halloween 3 had nothing to do with the rest of them, and then after 3, it's just like somebody was throwing darts at a board with ideas on it, and that's where the story is,
Yeah. It cracks me up. It was like my friend Rick, he's like, he likes Halloween, but then he's like, I told him, I was like, I never really sat down and truly watched him. He's like, you need to watch every one but 5. He's like, 5 can go fuck itself. Like, it's like
5's a weird film, man. I think 4, 5, I don't know. Then I think there's 6, because there's like Curse and Revenge.
H2O something, right?
H2O, which is weird. H2O is completely outside of all the other canon.
Yeah, that one was a mess.
And then there's the Busta Rhymes one, which can just go away. And then there's Rob Zombie's ones, which can just go away. And
hey, 1 wasn't bad. I actually liked 1. 2 was fucking weird though. Like 2 made like.
I didn't. Again, huge caveat here. My personal opinion. Look, if you like Rob Zombie's second Halloween movie, more power to you. I would never shame you for that.
Oh, I will.
Personally, I couldn't get into it. Okay. The way the like Laurie Strode character started to get like super edgy teen and was like, yeah, my fucking brother, like all that weird stuff.
Bear Rebellion.
Like, too much.
I thought you would have liked it.
A ripped up mask, and he's, he looks like homeless Michael, and the whole thing I couldn't get into. It felt way too off script and way too much of a Rob Zombie movie and not enough of a Halloween movie.
Oh, man. I gotta say, I'm actually like, if I had to throw myself, I would actually have to say I'm a big Rob Zombie fan. I mainly love the House of a Thousand Corpse series. That one's my all-time favorite. 31 was just...
Firefly trilogy, right? Like the overall Firefly trilogy?
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, see, of those 3, House of a Thousand Corpses felt like it definitely was early Rob Zombie, like...
All right.
He was just like, this is what I'm influenced by, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump all that into a hat and then make a movie. And I think there's redeeming bits in House of a Thousand Corpses. Don't get me wrong. My wife is a huge fan of House of a Thousand Corpses, and, I've watched it before me and her watched it together, and then I watched it with her, and I can see the appeal in it, because there's bits and pieces of that are just kind of, excuse me.
You're fine.
Off the wall kind of horror, and I can appreciate that, and there's bits like, the whole part where Otis is talking about, he's like, who's the one who brings the Christmas candy and all that, and like there's just bits and pieces of it that you're like, man, I could get into this is kind of cool. Devil's Rejects was where it really kind of came to for me, and I really enjoyed Devil's Rejects a lot.
Yeah.
And then 3 from Hell came out, and sadly, I have to say, I really wanted to like 3 from Hell. I think it was desperately lacking Mr. Sid Haig, and it's really upsetting that he didn't. He wasn't able to completely do that film, because I think that he would have definitely elevated the film. I think he would have definitely made it better.
Yeah,
Because it would have been that
definitely.
tradition, that trio that we expected to see.
Oh,
It's very upsetting now, especially now knowing what went on. You watch it and you can't help but think, man, I wish Sid were in this. And,
yeah, definitely. Man, it's crazy. Like, I have never, and I shit you not, I've never ever got really, like, I was like, when someone passes in Hollywood, I'm like, damn, that, that sucks. Like, that's harsh. But when he passed, he was a part of, like, my childhood of horror. Like, growing up and watching him in House of a Thousand Corpses, dude, I busted out in tears, dude. Like, when I had read that post, I'd woken up at, like, 9 a.m. I was reading that post because it was, like, blowing up everywhere on the internet. I was like, dude, I just started crying. I was like, damn, he's fucking dead. Like, because I was supposed to go see him at a con, and I was so excited. I was like, dude, I get to meet him. Like, he's a fucking hero to me. This is going to be great. And I had a problem with my car, and I couldn't go. And I was like, fuck. I was like, there's always next year, and that next year, he passed. I was like, damn.
Yeah, that's a drag.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I really think that House of a Thousand Corpses, number one, Sid Haig's great in it. That you definitely have to recognize. The whole scene with the people who bust in and try to rob him is just
comical. It really is.
It's classic. It's really, but House of a Thousand Corpses being the first of the three, you could see Rob Zombie getting his feet wet a little bit and trying to figure his way out. Devil's Rejects felt like a really genuinely good film, standing on its own feet, without all the like hodgepodge of influences that kind of you saw that were kind of ham-fisted, in my opinion, at least, in House of a Thousand Corpses. So like I was really excited to see Three from Hell, thinking that, okay, if this trilogy evolves over time, this should be the best of them. And I think that it very well could have been, but the missing,
without
missing
Sid.
themes, the lessened amount of Sid Haig in it definitely was upsetting.
And I think that's what happened. I think Rob made the script, and he was like, okay, he calls up everyone, Sid's still in his good health as if he knew it. And the next thing, during the filming, he gets ill, and they're like, fuck, we gotta, we've already promised this movie, now we gotta finish it.
And I would have to read into that and see. I would love to hear more on that, because it definitely seemed like he was going to be a bigger part of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He phased his way out, and I'm sure I'm just not hip to the story there, but man, seeing him in the early bits of the film, it's upsetting. Because you can see he doesn't seem like he's doing good. So
yeah, definitely.
But Bill Moseley, on the other hand, is a stud. Bill Moseley.
Oh yeah, I'm a big Bill Moseley fan.
Not to imply that anybody isn't, but you know what I mean. Bill Moseley, on the other hand, one of the characters that I like the most, Otis. Partly because Otis, he just has this way of just saying whatever the fuck he wants, and I really like. I appreciate that. I like the sick, dark, Otis, but and Bill Moseley's just a gem. I got to meet him at Days of the Dead, and he's just like, I don't know, man. I can't put my finger on it, but man, he's a cool ass dude, Bill Moseley.
He seems like it, Yeah. I liked him in Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Like, he fucking rocked that character.
Lick my plate.
Yeah. Burn like a rat. Burn like a rat. Like, that was fucking great. Like, it cracks me up.
Lick my plate. I can't think of anything other than lick my plate. He gives off like that energetic, like he looks like he's always hyped to be a part of that project, and I think that's what makes him great, like as Otis, he plays as that comical, like, shut your fucking mouth before I put my gun in it, and then of course when he plays that one dude on Texas Chainsaw, he just seems like he's energetic, hyped, he's like careless and reckless, and I like that he brings that to the table. And when you walk up to his booth at one of these horror cons, he's not like the other folks who are like, oh, you like the movies? Cool. All right, here's your autograph. See ya. He gets into like these weird, completely off the cuff, random conversations with you. Like, just all of a sudden we were just talking about things, and I don't know. I got a picture of him from my wife. My wife loves, again, like I said, the Firefly trilogy films. So I got a picture of him as Otis, and he signed it to her. And then we were talking, and I was like, "Yeah, my wife, she's a big fan of your work, and particularly Otis." I said, "I'm more of a Chop Top kind of guy," and he was like, "I owe a lot of my life to Chop Top." And then he goes off on this like whole story. I spent like 10, 15 minutes talking to him about his life and what Chop Top did for him as the character, and it was just great. And I was like, man, most of these people are like, give me the $40 for the signature. Here's the signature. Very nice to meet you. Now, don't be offended, but I have a line full of people, so take care. You know what I mean? And like, I
Yeah.
get that. I understand. That's the transaction there. No, he stops every single person in line and chills and talks to them. So he's just really a gem. And it's funny because he's such a sweet person, yet he's delivering those terrible lines like. Or like showing back up at the hotel room wearing the dude's face, yeah. I love it. He's a genius. He's great.
That's great. And honestly, when I went to, I don't know if you know this, but here in, I live in Florida. So here in Florida, we have this con called Spooky Empire. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I feel like I have, yeah.
And honestly, it's a 100% horror convention. When this is all over, you gotta check into it and try to make it. It's awesome. And Kane said it the best when he was there. He did a Q&A, and he's like, it's crazy. You'll meet like these people who've done comedy, romance, and they're a bunch of pricks and assholes. But then you meet people like me who are like all into horror, the brute, the killer, like, and we're sweet as fuck. Like and it's like, damn, he's right. Like it's like a lot of these big time actors won't give you the time of day, but these well known but like not super super huge people will be like, oh, you want to talk? Let's talk. And I'm like, damn.
You know what I think it is? I think it's because horror is not unlike punk in the respect that like it's one of those subcultures, one of those fandoms that we're used to kind of being treated as icky weirdos,
Right, yeah.
horror fans, and so when you get us all together in a convention or in any kind of format, any kind of venue rather, when you get us all together, we just naturally, there's that sameness, that like, that wink and nod. Andrea Subasati said it best on the Radio for the Creep show. You see somebody walking down the street in a Hellraiser t-shirt, and you know that person has similar interests and things. So like, there's that side to it with horror. And I think that when you get us like whether it's a big, huge brute like Kane Hodder or, any fan like me or you, when you get us all together, we have that one like shared thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So we all gravitate toward each other, and we're all kind of cool with each other for that respect. In that respect,
exactly. And it trips me out. Like I 100% always like I will always follow this rule: is don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, like, take an example. Like, I mean, like you dress with the punk rock style, and you rock it, like you really do. And I mean, but when you hear you, it's like you're very well spoken, you're very nice, you're very chill and relaxed. Like you would think for someone who dresses like that, you should be like screaming the mic and all that, but you don't. Like, and then you meet people who are like in suit and ties, and they're like pricks and a bunch of douchebags. It's like, dude, are you fucking for real?
Yeah, well, people in suits and ties freak me out. That's all I'm going to say about that. I don't like the suit and tie thing. I like wearing one once in a while when I want to go somewhere nice. I have a very sharp suit and tie, I'll have you know, but I don't, there's, there's something to be said for the people who are just comfortable in their fandoms and things. And I've always said that, like, be into whatever weird shit you want to be into and just own it and try to live. And I don't know, I love people like that, man, whether it's horror or not, whether it's music, whether it's, you can like something completely different than me, but when you're like, this is just my thing and I'm into it, like, it's not, make no excuses and no apologies about it. And it's commendable and respectable in my opinion.
Oh, agree. Yeah. I will never ever try to take away someone's, I guess if you had to put it, like their lifestyle or identity, because that's theirs and that's what makes them, but if I'm not interested, I'm not gonna, talk shit to them. Just like, that's, I'm not into it, but hey, if that's what makes you happy, great. That's phenomenal. Keep on, being cool, like, I don't know if you know this, but in my, what I like to call is the geek cave, like, cause, I'm all into everything. So I have like a whole wall of like Jason masks. Like I have one signed by Kane, then I have just like my regular ones, my customs and all that, right? And I just like post pictures, and I'll have people, you know, like I'll have some people go, dude, that's fucking awesome, or I'll have people go, you're a weirdo, you're a freak. It's like, oh, I'm a freak because I have a collection of masks. It's like I don't go out in public. Well, let me phrase it. I don't go out in public just anywhere wearing them. I go to like cons sometimes if I'm in the mood to cosplay, but you know, like other than that, like they're just there to be decorative. Like they're cool as shit, you know.
You're the weird guy. That's all right.
All right.
You'll run into other weird guys, and they'll be like, "Hey, weird guy, I get weird like, too." You know, and it's
exactly.
like a cool in the know thing. My wife heads to the drugstore, and there's a guy who works there, who at first she thought was hitting on her because he was just like, "That's a pretty wicked shirt," or I don't know. He said that's a something like that, right? And she kind of was like, "Okay, dude, give me my change," you know, and like left. And the next time she went in, he said something again, and she realized that she was wearing a shirt that he thought was some brand, wicked brand. But he was talking about horror movies with her, and he immediately saw her shirt and was like, I can just talk to her because she's into the same things as me. Like I can just, and it was innocent, you know, like I said, at first when she didn't make the connection, wicked brand, as opposed to like wicked good shirt, dude, you know, like some Bostonian bullshit. But when she thought he was just like saying it was a wicked shirt, she was like, that's odd, you know, like out of nowhere with nothing more. He thought it was some brand that he knew about horror movies. And so like, you know, she's run into him now every time she goes to that store, and he always says something to her about a horror movie, and she'll have a little quick chat with him about a horror movie. But I think it's such a cool story because, yeah, as much as my wife at first was like, hey, whoa, man, you know, when she realized what was going on there, it was like, that's a perfect example of how, you know, you see that certain thing that you're like, oh, we connect on that, so let's just talk about that. And
right, exactly.
And it's tough to connect with people, especially right now. So anything that gives us that extra leg up to be like, hey, you're cool, you're in the know. Like, yeah, we all need the cue card now.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think, honestly, man, that's why I can talk to you, because we're into horror. We're into video games. Like, it's so easy for me to sit down, because I'm like, damn, we have so much similarities. Like, I can just chat this dude up all day, every day, and hopefully he doesn't think I'm weird. But I just think he's a cool-ass dude. Like,
hey, thanks. Likewise, my dude. You know, right now, it's really weird, and there's a lot of people who are, I don't know, man. But I have a theory here, okay? I'm going to go a little bit on a tangent, but...
That's fine, go ahead.
I think that with this quarantine and all of us existing mostly on social media for our social interactions, I think that there are a lot of people who are trying really fucking hard to make sure that they maintain their cool factor while they're hanging around their house permanently in pajamas and you know, not getting their hair and nails did, or not getting their you know, their time out and about to be cool in public. And I think it's making people act pretty shitty in a lot of places, on a lot of things, and in a lot of ways. And I think that the best thing we could all be striving for right now is to just try to be a little more respectful, a little more open-minded and welcoming with each other and approachable with each other, because we're all getting weird, man. It's been, God, since February, March for a lot of us. You know, Gunn went on work from home in like late February. Quarantine was shortly after, where they were saying, hey, don't go out, you know. We've all been cooped up inside for a good long time, you know. We're all getting a little weird, and then we're showing our whole asses on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and shit. And I think that we've got to be, you know, cognizant and careful of, you know, trying to be a little too hip and trying to maintain our cool, like I said, while we're sitting around in pajamas. Like, I mean, yo, I have a green mohawk, and my roots right now are fucking powerful. There's no green left in my mohawk. I'm a haggard mess of the former me. But, you know, I'm not going to, like, put up a facade anywhere and try to pretend like, yo, no, man, this shit is rolling like it should. We've all been stuck inside for multiple months without human interaction, and I think it shows when you jump on social media and people are acting as if they haven't had to be civil or understanding or patient or friendly in any way. And yeah, So I think the biggest compliment you can give me is saying that you feel comfortable talking to me, and I hope that I don't ever change in a way that would cut that off. Because to me, being approachable and you know, being
Yeah.
accessible is extremely important. So
Yeah, man. No, I mean, we've known each other for what, nearly a year now. Pretty sure
yeah,
it's late August, right? So I'm pretty sure this was around the
I
time.
don't know, man. Time is like fucking
Right,
this
dude.
abstract thing now that we've been inside for the last
Fucking
18 years or whatever. That's why I had to say the month. Did you notice when I said we've been inside for? I paused and then I had to say the month because I was like, I can't count
Yeah,
months anymore,
dude.
man.
I
They're too
know.
long.
Dude, I know, like, and you put it the best on Twitter, and I love this word, and I tell everyone, like, honestly, like, when I'm texting someone, like, dude, my friend Matt Shotcha made the greatest fucking word. I don't know if you got it from somewhere. It's shack wacky. Like, we're all going shack wacky. Like, that is the greatest fucking word I've ever heard. I'm like, dude, I need this on a shirt. Like, I'm going shack wacky in here.
Right. And, I mean, and again, not to keep harping on it, but like the people that used to go out in public, like, okay, the people that bring their laptop to a Starbucks to sit down and write a screenplay so that everybody can see them writing a screenplay,
Oh,
those
God.
types of folks, they're stuck on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook right now trying to maintain that front, and it's just really gross and it's annoying. So like,
Yeah.
don't be that person, man. Like, just
Or what's
God, cut the shit.
fucking worse, and real fast, what's fucking worse is those famous actors who are like, oh, we're all in it together, but they're on a fucking private island. It's like, yeah, you got your fucking private island while I'm sitting here sweating my fucking chest off while trying to just maintain my cool in here. Like, no, we're not in it together. You're safe from this shit. I'm suffering.
What I love is the people who are in like these super fucking swanky penthouses and they're doing the like cell phone video of them being like, times are tough out there. It's like, yeah, out there is the key phrase there.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, you have, look at the view behind you. People can't make their rent. Shut up. You
Yeah.
know, like, know when to shut up. And I'm sorry, maybe I don't know when to shut up either.
Right. I mean, who knows? And I always say, like, and, right now with the, I don't try to get political and all that, but right now with the whole election, all this, like, oh my God, dude, like, this is just a mess. This, right? The fucking virus, votes coming up. And that's where I'm just going to go, because I don't like to get political. I hate being political. Like, I have no political stance. I tell everyone that. Like, I don't have a religion. I have no political stance, and it's all true. Like, you can go fact check me. There's nothing anywhere where you can find me with any political stuff. Like, and because it's hatred, and only people sit there and always want to say the horror community's toxic. Like, no, I've never, I've been in the horror community for quite some time, like, and I have to disagree. Like, I'm in the gun media Discord. I have yet to come across anyone toxic there. Y'all are sweet as hell, nice. There's like that one dude, Resolute Blood, who always says like good morning and all that to everyone, and is putting motivational quotes in there.
It's just great.
It is.
And I don't know. I hope he's listening. If not, I'm going to make sure I send him this. But I just want him to know that I read every single one of them.
Same.
And they give me a little pick me up, face my day. Yeah, he's great.
Agreed.
But to your point about politics, man, I don't really think it's politics, to be completely honest. I think that politics play a role in it. And I won't go down that road because, like you, I don't necessarily think that I'm, people aren't going to come to me for political science, right? So I won't go down that road. But I will say I think politics plays a role in it. But I think the politics, as much as the politics influence the attitude and the cultural kind of zeitgeist and the cultural kind of times, I also think that the times influence the political landscape. So, I don't as much as I recognize that they go hand in hand, they're symbiotic in that way. Like they're tied together in that way. I don't think it's that. I think it's just a human decency thing. And I think that we've been seeing like a degradation in human decency toward each other for a while now. And I think that it's coming to a head. And so basically, if we're sliding down that slippery slope of just general human decency toward each other, right? We're sliding into the negative.
Oh, yeah.
What is going to accelerate that speed we're sliding downhill, like a fucking quarantine where we're all locked in our houses staring at our computers on social media where 99% of the population was pretending to be super rad and happy anyway. So you take this, already negative and getting more negative situation, you compound it with a situation that isolates us and puts us inside, where we don't have anybody to challenge our thoughts. We don't have any other outlets. And so we just dump everything onto the internet in one way or another.
Right.
And I think it leads to some really kind of sketchy situations. And
It does.
I think we're all going to kind of walk out of the cave with the big nasty beard when this quarantine's all over and COVID's no longer a thing. And we're all going to have to kind of reconcile the bullshit we've pulled over the last couple of months and try to kind of get back on track. So I think that there's a social side to this entire pandemic that we're not even facing yet. And, we can argue about masks. We can argue about stimulus checks and politicians and voting and all kinds of other shit. But when it's all over, we're still going to walk out of our houses and, we have to try to land somewhere where we feel okay about it again and get a new normal going, because I do think people have changed over the last couple of months.
Honestly, you've never met me in person, and I'd love to meet in person and all that, but until all this is over,
that's gonna be out,
right? And I'm
got all nervous too. I was kidding, buddy. Relax. It's all right.
I'm trying to know. Anyways, I'm a 6'3" dude. I'm tall, and right now going out in public, I'm trying to get back out there, slowly, because I still got to do my shopping, and I'm still trying to keep my body up in shape. And
so you're in the gym, and you're trying to live your normal routine, masked up and 6 feet away from everybody, or whatever. Yeah.
So I'm already aggressive, and then because of the quarantine, I try not to act aggressive, because I'm already tall and people give me funny looks, right? And I hate being aggressive, I don't like it at all. So I walk a peaceful path. But after being quarantined, dude, I go to the gym and the clerk is just, he's talking to me, but the way he was talking to me just started pissing me off. I was I wanted to punch this dude. I don't know why, but I was sitting there going, why did I want to punch this dude in the face? He's just talking to me. I don't know if he was being demeaning or what. I was dude, it's just staying inside just gets to you at this fucking point. It's damn.
It does. And I think that there's a level of conditioning that we're all used to, where, the drive-thru fucked up my order, and I, got stuck at a red light because somebody didn't know where they were going, and so I'm sitting there waiting. Now I'm late to work, and then I run into work, and I make a coffee, and I spill it on myself, and that's all one morning, right?
Damn.
And we're conditioned through time to kind of deal with the daily grind, as people say, and shit like that, right?
Right.
Then you're stuck inside for months and months and months, and you go outside, and those little inconveniences, and you're just rage monster, because you're I haven't done this. I've dealt with the one big inconvenience, the staying inside part, that overshadows anything else going on. And so, I think that we're losing our conditioning. We're softening up in the shade, basically. Lack of vitamin D and shit is messing with us or something.
Right. I get that vitamin on.
Right. We need some sunlight. Everybody needs some sunlight. Otherwise, we're all going to come out skinny and atrophied and
a bunch of Wendigos.
Yeah. Right. No, I do. I think that there's a lot of splintering and fracturing of people right now. There's a lot of people kind of subtle changes or being worn thin and raw on the outside kind of things. And then top it all off with everything going on in the world currently with, more political things that I won't go into for sake of the show. But
appreciate it.
With everything going on lately, everybody's raw as well. So I think a combination of a lack of that usual conditioning to kind of be more tolerant, and then situations of intolerance that people are facing every day.
Oh, yeah.
The entire thing is a recipe for disaster. And honestly, I don't want to sound like doom and gloom guy, but I feel like it's a fucking miracle that things are kind of chugging along as well as they are, because honestly...
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's the best way to put it.
A lot more falling apart could have happened by now. But,
oh, yeah.
we even talking about horror anymore?
I mean, I think we're throwing some horror stuff in there.
I think the world's pretty horrifying right now, so I guess we're good.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, we're all living a fucking horror, you know? We're living the thing. Fucking,
That's
we're
right.
staying inside. Now we gotta test each other's bloods. Fucking, if it pops up, we're running. I'm fucking grabbing the flamethrower.
Nobody trusts anybody anymore, and we're all very tired.
Right.
That GIF. I pinned it to my profile because I was like, that never has that been truer. You know, like
Oh, the
we're all
one
very
dude from there. God, what's his fucking name?
McCready, RJ
Yeah.
McCready.
Yeah. It's
Dr.
been a
Violent
while.
RJ McCready. He poured his J&B into his chess machine like very early on in that movie, so he's bored as shit. You know that.
Oh yeah.
At least we have the internet.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, honestly, as I told you, I was like, look, things can't be going that bad. We haven't seen a wild husky run around yet. And once I see that, dude, I'm hopping out. I'm like, no, not
The
trusting this anymore.
entirety of the United States is Outpost 31 right now, and we're all just waiting for somebody to grab the flamethrower.
Oh my god,
You
our
know,
District 9.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I mean, it's crazy. Like, we all sit there and we watch, like, those quarantine movies. It's like, damn, that would suck if that... Like, you ever seen Cabin Fever?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it's like. It's like we're all living cabin fever, you know? It's like the sick gets in contact, then we're fucked, and then we have people, you know, it's like the other day, I go to this building, right? And, you know, it's like, I'm trying to explain it. I go to my, there we go, doctor's office. I go to my doctor's office, and, you know, before then, I could just easily park into the parking lot, go in and all that, and I had this security guard come up to me, tell me to park my car. He temperature checks me, make sure I'm okay. It was like touching my face, making sure there's no fever. He can feel that the device couldn't see, and then he gives me a wristband, and it's a color, and he says, this is the color of the day. It will get you in for the day. If you come back tomorrow with the same color on and try to go in, it will not let you in. I'm like, damn, this is crazy, because, you know, I was watching I Am Legend, and there was shit going on like that, and I was like, damn. I was like, it's like, how, you know, it's like, did these people just fucking predict it or what?
Well, and then watch the videos of, I don't know, somebody being in a fucking Walmart and they don't want to wear a mask. So then somebody else starts going, well, you got to leave the store. Next thing you know, the person not wearing a mask is like trashing the place. And you're like, this is, I mean, when I joke and say, oh, are we even talking about horror movies anymore? The world's pretty horrifying. I guess we're good. This is what I mean, because, like, right now you could be 2 feet away from some, like, you know, non-mask wearing rageaholic who's going to freak out and throw a rack of Snickers bars at you because they don't want to wear a mask because they feel like you're infringing on their rights or whatever. Like, that's a real thing that happened.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Damn.
that's not an isolated video either that I'm talking about. There's probably 100 of them on fucking Twitter right now of people, like, blacking the fuck out in a Walmart over mask, not
That's
mask,
why
whatever
I don't
the case.
like Walmart.
Yeah, and it's like, hold on, man. Hold on. I saw something the other day where somebody said, wearing a mask over your face, feeling like wearing a mask over your face is like a violation of your rights or anything. And how minuscule of a request it is to ask you to put like a 4-inch square fabric over your mouth when you go out in public for other people's well-being, not just your own, for everyone else around you. How that is like sparking these moments of rage in people. And again, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier about we're all inside. We haven't been conditioned to think about anybody else. We're just in our little bubbles, except for, like, you know, the front that we're putting on Facebook or whatever, where we're like, look at me in the sunflowers, you know, selfie and all that bullshit. We're not conditioned to be decent people to each other right now. We've all been living in caves effectively. We've all devolved. And so you get us out in public and somebody's like, hey man, why don't you put a little piece of fabric over your mouth? And it's like, fuck you, don't you tell me what to do with my face, you know? And like next thing you know, they're throwing things at each other. Like,
Yeah.
this is today, you know, like, and that's, like I said, again, the sad part is that's not an isolated video. It's not like we're all talking about the one video. There's hundreds of them. There's people calling the cops on each other for just being, like, existing in public places and shit. Like, all of these things that we laugh off as memes, like, this is all that de-evolution of like, hey, people have been locked up too long and they're starting to act out. You know what I mean? Like,
it's the cosmics, man. It's the cosmics.
Yeah, like, if you withhold me from Starbucks for so long, I'm gonna go fucking buck wild in this Walmart over a mask. You know, it's exactly.
It's dude, it's fucking like you said, it's a real life horror movie right now. I mean,
right.
You know, like,
I want to get my fucking hair dyed, and until we all just accept the fact that we have to wear some masks, I can't do that. So, like, can we get it together?
Yeah,
you know, like,
right?
Can we please for the sake of my mohawk? God damn.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, to those who don't believe in wearing a mask, please, this is a good cause for Matt's mohawk.
My fucking mohawks hurt.
It's dying, y'all. It's dying.
My wife just texted me from the other room and said, everyone has become the tethered, and she's 100% true. We're no longer the top side, normal us. We're the ones that have been living in the underground tunnels and eating raw rabbit.
For real.
She's not wrong.
No, she's definitely not, you know.
God, now I'm in the mood to watch Us. When we finish this podcast, I'm going to throw Us on. Such a fucking great movie.
I have not seen that yet.
But, you know, Mrs. Shotcha, as she often does, manages to toss in these pearls of wisdom, and she does it in this really, like, classic her way. One of the things I love about my wife is that she has a way of saying something to you that's so, like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It doesn't require a lot of words. She's not somebody who, like me, if anything, I talk too much, you know, and I recognize that about myself. I gab way too much, right? My wife is somebody who can put a thought together in it, like the fewest amount of words in the shortest, most concise sentence. And you hear it and you just kind of, your whole head shifts and you start thinking about things differently. She's done it to me a lot over the course of this quarantine and the podcast, because Radio for the Creeps, my wife is a large part of. She's always in the background, always helping me with research, helping me try to figure out what we're going to do next and all these things. And she says something like that, and, you know, Us is a really great kind of parallel to some of the things I'm talking about. We've all spent this time locked up. The other side of us is being shown more often than the side that we've been rolling with. And or you can even look at it like the side we're putting forth into the internet, which is really the only social interaction we have, and then the tethered side is the real us right now. And yeah, there's a lot of parallels there. Us actually will probably hit a lot differently when I watch it tonight, and now I have to. So, shout out to Mr. Shotcha for always being the number one, you know, producer of Radio for the Creeps and everything I do, because she's always in the background. People don't realize that. She may only be on the mic for date night, but she's always in the background, always helping behind the scenes. So shout out
awesome.
To Mrs. Josh.
Dude, no, she's actually awesome, man. You know, like, honestly, like, she's really cool. I've, you know, like I said, I've met her through some of the streams when you were doing, like, Beyond and all that. And then, of course, I loved y'all's date night episode. Like, I'm waiting for another one to come out. Like, that's the one I've been looking forward to, because hearing y'all talk to each other was so cool. Like, she's very wise. You're 100% right. Like, every time. She's my
best bud, man. There's a reason that we've spent, you know, so many years together.
Right? I mean, honestly, it's cool. Like, no, she's very awesome. Like, damn, I was like, after, like, listening to the episode, I was like, damn, I want to be best friends with her. I'm like, Matt, stop trying to fight her. Just agree with her. She's smart as hell.
I will tell her that you support her and all of her fandom of found footage. Believe me, I will.
Oh, please do, because
from one Blair Witch fan to another, I'm sure she'll appreciate it.
Yeah, please do. She's, like you said, she's very wise. And, you know, honestly, like, if you're looking for that co-host for Radio for the Creeps, bring her on, because she really is, like,
yeah, we're working on recording a few date nights while we're in between seasons, so that we have a couple of them just ready to go, because, you know, it's kind of tough sometimes. Like, if Mo comes strutting out of her room, one of us needs to be able to go and kind of, you know, take care of her and get her back to bed. So, like, that's why a lot of times we haven't really done as many date nights as we want, but with this month off, we're hoping to get a few recorded and just keep them in our pocket until, you know, the time's right to let them go in season 2. So yeah, I really appreciate that you enjoyed the first episode of Date Night. I had a ton of fun making it. So
No, I mean, I generally just enjoy Radio for the Creeps. I think what you bring to the table is great. I really do. Like, you know a lot about horror, and I'm glad you picked it as your genre. I mean, and that's why, like, with the Lane Shift, it's not just horror. It's horror, gaming, comics, movies. Like, it's multi-genre.
Yeah.
Like, I know decent horror. I know decent gaming. Like, I'm not like most of those people nowadays who can just drop details, be like, this is the cast, this is the crew. I'm like, well, this is who I know, and this is what I like.
Yeah. But I honestly, Lane, I think that having a podcast that's you represented and you put it out as you, it's it's your thing, and I think there's a lot of merit in that. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with the kind of podcasts where they do those deep dives and they get super
nothing wrong with that.
Nightmare University is actually one of my favorite podcasts. It's with Dr. Rebecca McKendry. She has a PhD. She teaches horror. Super, super, super intelligent person. And I just love listening to those episodes. So, like, don't get me wrong. I never mean to sound like I hate on them. I just also, like for Radio for the Creeps, and it sounds like for what you do with Lane Shift, there's also room for the podcast that's more about the host's take on things, and that doesn't always have to be super analytical. I think there's room for both, and so I love what you're doing here, and I'm happy to be back for another episode with you.
Oh yeah, man, definitely. And I like I said, I love bringing you on because it seems like you can bring it to the table, and that's great. And it seems like me and you have a lot in common, so it's not like we're gonna sit there and scream at each other like, no, go fuck yourself, this is the best. Like, I believe as here's how I see a community. If you like the genre, I don't think there should be any diversions. Like, people who are like Jason Voorhees fans, like, I don't believe those people are real fans because they're like, fuck Michael Myers, fuck Freddy. Like, no, Freddy and Michael are cool. Like, but it's cool that you like Jason a little more, because I'm like that too. Like, I like Jason a little bit more, but I also can appreciate Freddy and Michael. Like, I'm not gonna get all toxic and go, fuck these characters, this one's the ultimate. Like, no, they bring their own taste to the table.
I think there's a lot of people that want to draw lines, and I think that discussion, disagreement, discourse, all of that is great. I think where it gets muddy is what I was trying to say on socials. I think it was like yesterday or the day before, about your opinion and fact, and conflating the two. I can say to you, I think Jason Voorhees is better. I think Friday the 13th is a better franchise, right?
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. We can then discuss it. And I'm discussing my opinion, which immediately, if I acknowledge it's an opinion, opens the door to understanding opposite opinions and all of that. It's when I try to turn my opinion into a fact that it gets tricky and it turns into an argument, not a discussion. And I think that that's the problem. A lot of people take their opinions very seriously, and they take them as, irrefutable truths. You know what I mean? That they see in the world. And I don't know. I think that when you mix up opinion and fact is when you get into mixing up discussion and argument. And I have no time for arguments, to be completely honest. I don't have the energy or patience for arguments. I'd rather have discussions all day long, because we can sit here and chat for hours on end about the things we love and why we love them more than other things. I can't sit here for hours and argue with somebody, because it's just, why? So, but it's something I respect about you, Lane. So,
hey, I appreciate it, man. And honestly, like, I physically, arguments like upset my stomach, so I try not to argue. But it's actually funny. I clash heads with some of my friends a lot on everything, and I'll fight them. I'm stubborn, so sometimes I get into like my mood, and I'm like, you know what? I'm having a really shitty day. I don't care how bad my stomach's going to hurt. I'm going to fight you on this. And I'm going to sit here and just be an asshole. And then I'll feel bad. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, let's discuss this another time, But a lot of times I do try to have, like, these discussions, like, you're a person who doesn't care for Blair Witch. Well, I'm a person who's like, dude, Blair Witch is just great to me. And that's okay, That's
fine. That's really, and we're both horror fans. That's fine.
Exactly, and that's all that matters. Is me and you can sit here at the end of the day and go, horror is great. Yes, agreed. Like, and I think that's all that matters. Is as long as we can stick together and say, this is a great community, this is a great genre, that's all that matters. So what if you like zombies more than slashers, or you like ghosts more than slashers? Like, that's cool,
And let's be real. there's a lot of people who just try to be hipster anyway.
Oh yeah.
Remember for a long time the hip thing was, I like Halloween 3, and everybody was like, oh, Halloween 3 isn't a Halloween movie, and everybody was like, I like Halloween 3, I'm in the know on horror. And it's like, yeah, okay guys, come on. You know, like,
all right,
stop trying so fucking hard, will you?
Yeah, that's true. Like, it will, you know what trips me out is like,
Don't get me wrong, Halloween 3 is good.
oh yeah,
I better say that now before the Halloween 3 fans come to take my horror card away or whatever that meme was. But Halloween 3 is cool, don't get me wrong. But, like, you know, it doesn't get you a gold star. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good. You already lost your horror license today when you had said C.J. Graham. You lost. I told you. I'm taking that. Like, that's personally mine now. You can get this.
I'm just glad that like nobody like Wes or nothing like tagged Kane in, because that would start CJ and Kane have a friendly rivalry and they tease each other a lot.
I did not know that.
Yeah, CJ was part 6, Jason,
right.
And Kane was part 7, and so they pick on each other a lot, the two guys, and they run into each other at horror conventions and such, and they, you know, they give each other shit in like a brotherly love kind of way, a friendly way.
Right.
That's where the nature of that joke came from, and why I said don't anybody tell Kane I said it, because Kane's already mad at me anyway because I gave Tom Matthews like the better number posters for Friday the 13th game Bearfest. I gave him posters that were like, I don't know, a lower or a higher number, and Kane was like, what the fuck, man, why don't I get those numbers? And I was like, oh man.
Damn. You know, it's actually crazy. I shit you not. I was about to tag Kane. I was like, nah, I probably really shouldn't. I'm like, I don't actually want to start something here because then I'd feel so god awful. I'm like, no, you know what? I'll just say I'm going to take his horror card away. I'll make it even.
Yeah, I think it's all in fun. I think he'd get it.
Right? No, I mean, I did not know that him and CJ, though, really did have some sort of rivalry. That actually fucking cracks me up now.
You know, in the most friendliest of ways.
Of course.
But yeah, they do. They definitely do. They pick on each other a good amount. But yeah, that's why of all the other Jasons, you know, it had to be CJ Graham, because I knew that one would be the There's very few people who will be like, oh, I get that. But yeah, I was proud of that, man. That was probably my best joke in a long time.
No, it was a good one. I mean, honestly though, is but you know what trips me out though the most, like, you know, going back to like that kind of stuff, you know, like knowing those kind of facts, like you know, when Friday the 13th the game first came out and y'all were all posting about it, what would trip me out the most is I would see people come in and they would like drop these bizarre thread and details on the game, on y'all, and I was like, how do you fucking know this shit? I'm like, I know that's Matt, he's pretty cool, but I didn't know all this about him and what he's a part of, you know. I was like, what the hell? I'm like, and how did you know what time and all this was? It's like, wow. I don't know how these people just store that info. I'm like, hey, this is Matt Shotcha. He's a community dev. He runs a cool ass podcast that I listen to, and I'm like, and he's just really groovy. Like, this is who I know him as, you know, like, and it's
I don't know. I feel like there's people in gaming communities that know more about me than I do, and when I say that, what I mean is there's a lot of there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time I guess thinking about it. I don't know. The truth of the matter is, I'm just I'm honestly a lucky horror fan who made my way into video games, and when the opportunity to work at Gun came along, it was a no-brainer for me growing up loving horror. So I jumped in and, you know, took the job at Gun, and now I got my name in the credits of a Friday the 13th game. So basically, I have a smile on. I'm a happy horror fan. And I hope that the things we do at Gun can continue well into the future. So I'd love to retire from Gun. I'd love to work there for the rest of my natural working career. I love everything about Gun, and I love that I get to be surrounded by other horror fans, and not just within Gun, because everybody at Gun's a horror fan,
right.
But the fans of our games. So yeah, I'm just a lucky guy, and I'm thankful for it. Maybe that's why I don't have the energy to argue with people on the internet. Well, I do argue with people on the internet. Who am I kidding? I argue all the time on the internet, but you know.
That's true. You hear that, Wes? Give this man a raise, please. He deserves it.
I'm well taken care of. Don't worry. It's about being thankful.
Oh no.
Yeah, things have gone a long way. So
You know, now I gotta ask you this, if you don't mind, of course.
I'm on.
Because if suit and ties freak you out when you went for, I'm presuming if you went for an interview at Gun Media, I don't know how it worked there. When you went into your interview, like, were you wearing a suit and tie, or did you bring something else to the table?
Yeah, no, I haven't worn a suit and tie for work ever, and I'm not gonna. Yeah. I was a carpenter before I got into the video game industry.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I got out of high school. I became a carpenter. I started out in residential construction, so like framing houses, so building walls, cutting roofs, and things like that, cutting rafters for roofs, I should say, and all of that. And I quickly wanted to get into more like woodworking, which would be like cabinet making and furniture making and those kinds of things. So I got into a company that had a cabinet shop, and it had one cabinet maker, and he needed an apprentice. So I apprenticed with him. Then I became a cabinet maker, and I spent the rest of my time doing cabinetry and shit. When I got the job at Ubisoft, it was because I was a content creator, and that got me their attention. And I worked with some community managers on some of the content creation initiatives and community initiatives that I was running. And so when I went, the first job I got, which in the game industry, which was Ubisoft, right away I was like, I don't have to dress up for this, right? And they were like, nope, you're good. And I was like, cool, game industry it is for me. So when I went to apply at Gun, I think I was wearing like a t-shirt and cargo pants, believe it or not, like old BDUs. I was raggedy looking and had a mohawk, and I just went in and I said, look, these are the things that I know how to do, and this is what I'm into, and I love horror, and I hope that I'd be a good fit here. And me and Wes clicked. I knew Dan already, so, I had worked with Dan at Ubisoft. So,
oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, Shifty Samurai, Dan Nixon.
Yeah.
I worked with him in the same Ubisoft office, and when he left, I actually took his job at Ubisoft. First, it's funny, I follow Dan around. Dan is a good friend of mine, but I follow him around because when Dan became a community management team lead at UB, the game he was a community manager on is the game I got hired to be community manager on, Trials, right?
Right.
So then Dan was a community management team lead. I was CM on Trials. I moved up and worked on Division and Rainbow Six and other games like that. When Dan left Ubisoft and went to Gun, I got hired as a community management team lead in place of Dan when Dan left and opened up that role. So I was the new community management team lead when Dan left. Then Dan was at Gun, and when Dan became director of communications at Gun, I got hired at Gun to be lead community developer. So me and Dan, Dan's been a part of every stage of my career in gaming, and I owe him a lot because Dan is somebody that believes in me and always supports me and has my back. So yeah, I owe Dan a ton. But we go back a ways. So when I went to Gun, I had one person I knew there already. So it was like, that was kind of, and Dan was talking to me and he was like, man, you'd fit in great here. And so they flew me out. I visited, and next thing you know, here we are. After seeing everybody, meeting everybody, talking to everybody, I was sold. I came back from that trip and I said to my wife, I was like, we're going to end up in Lexington. And then we worked it all out, and, the offer came through and I took it.
Hell yeah, man. And I'm on, it's kind of cool. You make a really good fit at Gun Media, if I have to say so. Like, just the way
Hopefully
you bring,
it stays that way.
right? Yeah, you bring so much to the table. You seem to be really passionate about being the dev, and I think that's what matters. Like, I honestly gotta say, out of all the community devs I talked to, you are probably by far my most favorite, mainly because I have been shitted on by some community devs. I mean, I have literally nearly backed away, like, out of the conversation crying. I'm like, I'm not crying. I have been slaughtered by some. They're like, I've had people where I've talked to them like, hey, I was like, I'm running this podcast and I was wondering if I could talk to you about your game that's coming. And they're like, then they go look me up. They're like, you don't have enough views. I'm not interested. It's like, we're not going to share much with you. I'm like, damn, this is from a community dev. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I mean, look, I wouldn't want to down talk anybody else in the industry. They have KPIs and things that they have to keep an eye on, and I'm sure they want to make sure that they're,
right. they could say
you know,
a more
handling
nicer
things.
thing, though. You know, I mean,
They definitely shouldn't have just flat out said that.
oh yeah,
Maybe they could have. I mean, there have been times in my career before Gun, because now at Gun, I mean, look, I don't want to sound like this, like oh, anything special or whatever, but at Gun, it's a core principle, a core pillar of our community work that we try to make sure that we hit a cross section of every type of content creator there is. Um, Whether they're just getting the ball rolling, but they're passionate about horror, whether they're a medium sized creator, but they're passionate about horror, or they're a huge creator and they're passionate about horror. You notice there's one common thread there. It's more about their interest in horror and the games that we make.
right.
We try to work with everybody, but there were times in my career where I couldn't do that. And yeah, there's other ways to say it. There's ways to say, hey, you know, look, we're really pressed on time. We have a couple of other commitments, but, you know, let's keep in touch. And as you build up a following and all of that, maybe I can make sure I squeeze some time to visit and do a show, or as you build up a bit of a following, we'd love to try to help support you along the way, whatever the case. There's ways to do it, you know, but often, I mean, you got to remember too, a lot of people in community are doing 100 different things. So I wouldn't want to kind of slam the person who gave you that answer, but they
Oh
probably could
yeah,
have worded it better. But
that's
one
what
of
I'm
the things
saying.
I like and I appreciate about Gun, though, is the fact that I'm able to say yes. I say yes to so many things. Somebody said to me, I can't remember how the conversation went exactly, and I'm not going to mention who because I wouldn't want to out that. But somebody said to me, like, so how do I secure an interview with you? And I was like, all you got to do is ask. You know, like, let me know what day you want to do it. And I mean, I'm going to say yeah. Like, spoiler alert, I'm going to say yes. But we just have to make it work with timing and schedule. And they were like taken aback by it. And, you know, I love that about Gun, the fact that I get to do that.
Oh yeah.
And to this day, I haven't said no to anybody. So how about that?
Okay, Matt, can I
As a
have
matter of
$1 million?
What's that? No, I mean like guest appearances.
I know.
Right. I
So,
need my million first, okay? But yeah, I mean, like this week as an example, I think this is the third time I'm talking horror with somebody this week, and that's a week. So
I know. I was like, dude, I know. I was sitting there going, it's like, damn. I was like, I want Matt to come back on the show, but he seems like he's doing something. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hit him up. If he says, you know, I'm kind of tired, I'm like, all right, cool. We could try sometime later then. But when you're like, yes, I'm like, damn, he's got some energy. I'm like, word.
I mean, you know, we are all stuck inside. It's not like I'm out running laps or anything. So I got all the time in the world. I'm in my house sitting next to this microphone anyway. Let's use it.
Right? Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, the one thing that has yet to collect dust in my house ever since this is my gaming consoles and my mics.
Yeah, I can't say my electronics have never been stretched out quite as much as they are now because everything's getting a lot of mileage on it. So, but that's a good thing. We're all creating.
All right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, like I said, you know, it's really good though. You do make a great fit at Gun. You know, like I said, it seems like you're very, you know, like you're a very nice person. So it's easy to sit down with you. Like I remember, let me see, I think I started Lane Shift back last year in April. Because I remember, you know, I just remember starting it up randomly, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited for Layers of Fear 2. I'm like, this looks great. And I remember atting y'all about it, and I think I wanted to do an interview, and then you're like, hey, hit me up in your DMs, and I was like, hey, and you're like, he's like, oh, give me your email. Next thing you know, I'm getting like these codes and everything, and I'm like, well, this isn't what I expected, but hey, sweet. I was like, this is awesome.
We, you know, I do. I really like that about Gun. The approach towards community at Gun is, it's a very small studio, and we're lucky in that respect that we can be that way. But I love it because it plays well into the things that I think are important about, you know, how you run a community. So.
Oh yeah, exactly. You know, and how do I say this in a positive way? Like, I'm glad y'all are small, but like, I want y'all to grow, but I hope y'all never change. Like, I love seeing y'all grow, and I love seeing how Gun has evolved. I mean, you know, the other day, I actually, shit you not, I turned on F13. Like, it's been a few months since I played it, and I turned it on, and I'm sitting here looking at y'all's the yellow box, and like at that corner it's gun in it, and I was like, holy shit, I completely forgot, because now y'all are like the grayed out gun.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, that's their old old logo.
Yellow is gone now. There's no more yellow. We don't do that anymore. But, here's the thing about staying small but growing. In a company, you can run lean. You can keep the company lean and still grow. And I think that's something that Gun is doing. I mean, just look at when they launched Friday the 13th, there were 4 people working at Gun. There's 13 now.
Yeah, 13.
Yeah, and that's still small by studio means. But we have expanded. It's just we expand in very key ways where we keep everybody doing, they're not we're not an assembly line or anything like that. We don't have 100 people managing communities or 100 people managing CS, but we run lean, but we still have managed a lot of growth, and I think that there's room to grow while still keeping it family and tight-knit, and I think that that's something that Gun is definitely doing a pretty good job of, and I know it's something that's important to Wes, so that's pretty cool.
Hey, that's awesome, and that's a great way of thinking it and looking at it and how you're making company, and I think that's what makes a company. I don't, everyone's like, no, it's the project or it's the product. I think the company is what makes a company, and what you bring, like, you can have 12,000 assholes run a company and make the greatest game ever. I'm going to always talk bad about that company, but I will never talk bad about the game. Or you could have a company that makes a really fun game and are really sweet people, and it's like, wow, I love this company, I love this game. I love all their projects.
And the idea is that hopefully Gun survives through multiple projects. So the projects come and go. The company Gun is evergreen. And so that's, the way you got to look at it. So, like, exactly. A lot of these things that we do in terms of community, maybe we're sending out boxes with bloody handprints for Friday the 13th on Switch, or we're sending out shirts and water bottles and codes for Layers of Fear.
Yeah.
But we're ultimately, all of this is feeding back into the greater Gun community, which is a community full of hard dorks like me. So,
yeah. Dude, y'all, I completely forgot about that. Y'all freaked the fuck out of my mailman.
I'm sure. A couple of people's mail carriers put, like, they put, like, a big packing label over the handprint, and the people were pissed because they were like, the USPS, like, totally destroyed my box. And so, like, it has like the big bloody handprint on the front, and the entire top of the box is like a taped on, self-stick USPS label, so you can't even peel it off to reveal what was underneath. And people were mad. They were mad as hell. Blame them. Yeah.
I'm glad my people didn't think that. Like, it cracked me up because he's like, I had to sign for it. He's like, I don't know what's in this box, but I pray you're gonna be all right after it. And I'm like, I'm gonna be all right. Trust me.
Yeah. My favorite were the people who didn't know they were getting one. Like, there were some people on our mailing list that didn't know they were getting one, so just a random bloody cardboard box showed up at their house, and that was when it played off perfect.
Honestly, dude, like, it was still funny, like, to this day, like, when I was offered, when I had, I was like, oh, I have a Switch and everything, and then, you were like, oh, well, do you want to jump in this? I'm like, yeah. I thought I was just getting, F13 on my Switch. I was like, dude, I can't wait to have F13 for my Switch, and I'll have it for, like, all my consoles. Like, that'd be kind of cool. And I was like, and then next thing you know, I get this giant box, and I'm like, this is a fucking huge box for just a game, and I'm getting, like, I'm opening it, I'm, like, unraveling all this shit, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, this is, wow. Like,
that was a lot of fun, that whole campaign.
It was awesome, and it was really sweet of y'all to, like, give us all that stuff. Like, and to this day, I sit there and look, like, I always sit there and go, this is why, I'm like, this is why companies need to be more like this. This is great. Like, it's phenomenal that y'all did that, and it was very sweet of y'all that y'all went through the extra links of doing that, because I'm sure getting some of those signatures on there was not easy. I'm sure y'all had to coordinate that and all that,
Yeah, that was during the early days, and we had been hoarding some of those things. So some of those items were actually kind of like put together early, and then we hung on to them in the upstairs at Gun until a good time to use them. And then, doing the Friday the 13th boxes, we were like, here we go. Let's send some of these out. So it worked out really well.
Oh, okay. So next thing you know, now we're going to have to break into Gun to get more signatures. I'm kidding. I'm messing. No, I mean, like I said, I think that's... And like I said, but I mean, look at Gun, back to the whole horror community. Y'all are a bunch, as you said, bunch of horror freaks, like y'all are into it. So, like, and y'all are like, again, Swedish people. Like, I've met a lot of y'all at Gun, I've met you, I've met Mel through Twitter, I've met Raj, I've talked to Wes on and off through Twitter and all that, and y'all are really cool people, and y'all seem to be really interactive with your community. And I think that's what I respect the hell out of y'all for, is y'all are, like, touch the base, like... Mm-hmm. As soon as someone at y'all are like, boom, I know, because I get a Twitter notification every time. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, again, goes into the overall approach toward community at Gun. When you talk about the overall outlook on community, it's not just me or me and Dan or me, Dan, and Mel. It's the entirety of Gun.
It is.
Got to appreciate the fans and our friends in the horror community.
I don't know. I mean, to this day, I mean, like, I look forward to the next Gun project. Like, every time I'm like, dude, like, this is just like... And then when 2020 with this whole stuff, I was like, damn, I don't know when the next project's gonna be, and I hope soon. I know y'all can't. I know you can't say anything, but like I said, I'm really looking forward to y'all's next future project. Whatever it be, I'm down, and I will definitely hop on content with it.
Well, thank you very much for that. And, thanks to everybody that supports us. Thanks to everybody that hangs out in the Discord, on our socials, on the Reddit. When we were doing our live streams, we had our group there. When I talk about building the greater Gun community, that's who I'm referring to. So thanks to all of the fans that keep us in this business of horror. And I also got to say thank you again. I really appreciate this opportunity to sit down with you again.
Of course.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that if I'm welcome to, I'll be back for a third episode sometime. You just let me know when.
Hell yeah.
Because, again, this has been a blast. We didn't exactly hit the topic, but I'm kind of becoming known for not staying on topic, so fuck it, right? I mean, we had a good talk. That's ultimately...
Don't worry, man. Yeah, honestly, I threw out a worm praying to catch a bass, and I just caught a whole damn gator. This was...
So, there you go.
Truly great.
Ultimately, the purpose of a podcast is to have a good chat that people want to listen to. We've got it 50% of the way there. We had a great chat. Hopefully people will want to listen to it, and maybe I'll be back. Maybe Lane will have me back for another one soon. So.
I'll keep bringing you back as long as you want to keep coming back, because I always enjoy it. Dude, ever since I did the first one, I was like, gotta have Matt back. Like, he's been great. Like, and I will keep bringing you back as long as you feel welcome to come back. Like I said, it's always up to you. I will never enforce you. I will never stop talking. I will never... If you never want to come back, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. I will still do content for Gun, It's like...
No, but, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I will... like I said, as long as you want to keep coming back, I'll keep bringing you, because I enjoy our talks. It's great, And this is like the most social I get out nowadays, trying to survive. Right. I feel like I've gone from McCree from The Thing to... I don't know, back to myself when I do these little topics.
That's what you need. We all need this. And, again, it goes back to the topic of creating things. And I'm just glad you're creating things. And it helps keep us all a little more sane. So.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's exactly right, and honestly, man, I hope you keep it up with Radio for the Creeps, because, like I've said before, I know I keep going out on Twitter. I'm like, guys, y'all gotta check it out. I mean it. Like, people, if you're listening... Please check out Matt Shotcha's Ready for the Creeps. I genuinely love it. Like, if you want someone who can bring you horror to the facts and details and have a good time with it, definitely tune into him, because I'm here just to bring entertainment, just general, because I just generally enjoy being entertaining and cheeky and all that. But if you're looking for someone who could give you more down to the details, explain why they like something instead of just going, yeah, I like it because it's awesome, but they can tell you their true general thoughts, I would definitely check Radio for the Creeps because, again, that's what Matt brings to the table with it.
Thank you so much for the stunning promotion. I really appreciate it, man.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Radio Creeps.
Oh yeah.
We're going to be running some cool giveaways and stuff through season 2, as well as announcing some cool stuff. We're doing some live recordings of podcasts in season 2. So the podcast will air on Twitch. We'll integrate our Twitch chat, by letting Twitch kind of the Twitch viewers chime in, and they'll be a part of each episode that airs on Twitch. Then, we'll be uploading it to your usual podcast platforms in the day to follow. So what's cool about that is for people who really love Radio for the Creeps, you'd be able to catch an episode basically before anybody else by being in that Twitch chat, and you'll be able to be a part of the show, which is pretty neat. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely check that out. And I'll definitely be in those live chats, chatting up and everything too. So definitely catch me there. Also, guys, another thing. Matt actually has a Radio for the Creeps gift shop on Designed by Humans. Y'all need to check out. He's actually coming out with some new merch. It's like Halloween themed.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude! When I saw that, I was like, I'm fucking getting one of those. I'm sitting there pulling out the moss out of my wallet, just trying to find that cash for it. I'm like, I'm ready. Like, drop it whenever you're ready, because I'm ready for it.
And keep an eye out too, because we're going to be doing some fun giveaways. I really like the Mayor Rat and the Poorly Planned Halloween 2020 party.
I love that too.
I did it up like a punk show flyer was the kind of thought there, the thought process.
That's what I actually got. I got like a garage band type theme off of it.
Yeah, kind of. But I was kind of thinking, what if you were in Creep City? What type of flyer would be stapled to a telephone pole in Creep City? And I was like, well, Mayor Rat and the Poorly Planned Halloween party. Yeah. So that's what we did, and so we're going to put those on some shirts, and we may be giving some of those away as well as we get closer to spooky season. So
I'm going to try, but my luck with giveaways, they never work. I'm going to be real with you. I won one like actually a few months ago, and it was just like a little code for something. But hey, man, I'll always take one of those because like I never win a giveaway. Like I've always put it in. I'm like not gonna win, but hey, let's see where we can go from here.
I'm in the same boat, buddy. Don't get me wrong. I put in for every giveaway. I never win, so that's okay though.
Right. Well, I mean, hey, man, notifications they always distract me. All right, well, man, honestly, like I said, I've had such a great time. Is there anything you want to talk about? Anything else you want to steam off about and all that?
No, I'm good. I just, again, like I said, thanks for having me back. Thanks for the chat, and, check out Radio for the Creeps. And, and if you enjoyed this show, hit us up on Twitter, and maybe we'll get Lane over to Radio for the Creeps next time.
I would love to come. I would definitely love to come. I've actually never even guested. I actually first guested on something the other day. No one actually brings me on. I'm normally the guy who's like, all right, how about I bring you on? So maybe a change of pace would be kind of cool.
We'll have to get you on the next roundtable. We did one with a few of your buddies from the network, and we'll have to get you on the next roundtable. That'd be great.
Yeah, save a spot for me. Make sure to put for the lane shift and slap it down. And I'll be like, hey, I'm here.
Absolutely.
Present. Well, thank you all for tuning in. And again, Matt, thanks for joining me with your ghouliest, grooviest stuff as always. And I will definitely bring you back for a third. You can count on it. You're always welcome here to get freaky and geeky with me.
Thanks, bud.
And also, guys, the Lane Shift as well has a freak and geek shop on Designed by Humans where you can rock some Lane Shift merch like I rock the mic, except when I stuttered there. And always remember, the Lane Shift is where things get freaky and geeky.